Hello there, everybody, and welcome to the entertainment headquarters, and welcome to the Retro Classic Movie Show with myself, and of course, my amazing co host coming all the way from the Metal Tavern Radio to hang out with little old me to talk about some classic films, or this particular film, Mr. DJ Anubis.
All right. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So this film was your pick this time, and anybody that wants to know, the Retro Classic Movie Show is about any films from the 80s, maybe even before the 80s up to the early 2000s. The last one we did, which was the inaugural one, was for with a very special guest, that fat samurai guy, and we did Rambo First Blood, and this is the second one, and we are doing a film that you chose, which I think is one of your favourite films, I think, is
hmm
Conan the Barbarian, starring good old Arnold Schwarzenegger. So why did you pick this film?
I liked a lot of it. I saw it when I was because I think it came out in '82, so I saw it probably about a couple years later on HBO or something. So it was the old school HBO box, and back then, movies didn't have like a lot of like resistance, like in terms of what you can put in. So you think about like Carpenter's The Thing and stuff like this, where it's just very gruesome, brutal, a little bit of TNA in there, get some titties and stuff like
See,
that. So,
there's nothing wrong with a pair of titties.
yeah.
Well, in this world of cinema, yes, there is, but not in the 80s. There was no holds barred in the 80s and like the 1990s.
Yeah.
But how the world has changed.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, like I remember seeing this. I might have been about 8 or 9. I remember. I think it was just randomly on the television,
hmm
and for me, it was me. What obviously got me straight was the sheer size of Arnold Schwarzenegger, this larger than life character on the screen,
hmm
and just his menacing size, and it just totally took. I was obviously sucked in to that world of like the barbarians, and the world that they lived in. So yeah, it really took us back. And as we know, with this particular film, which came out in 1982, it's based off the Conan the Barbarian character, um, which was based off Robert E. Howard's. He created the character, I believe, and his version of the character. When you think of Conan, I couldn't think of anybody else playing him than Arnold Schwarzenegger now, because I think he set the standard. So this is just a little glimpse. There's Arnie in all his glory as the character Conan, and this is what he was based on. So
hmm
very much, literally, he fits the bill for the character, and you can understand why he was perfectly cast as Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah. I mean, Jason Momoa wasn't a bad choice for the reboot, but the problem is the movie just never lived up to it. They kind of gone more into the sort of slapstick comedy barbarians. Like there's other movies of the same ilk around the same time as Conan that they tried to do, but they didn't capture like the darkness or the seriousness of Conan.
It
Like they
like the
tried to do.
dark fantasy elements and stuff like
Right,
that.
right.
And the thing is, I have noticed with Jason Momoa, he's a fine actor, and I've recently watched Aquaman 2. Um, and I love the first one way better than that one, and it's because they've tried to focus too much on making them like what they did with Thor in the MCU, how Thor started off with a bit of humour, but it still had kind of that undertone of like a dark vibe to it,
hmm
where later, obviously, Thor films, as he progressed, he seemed to get more and more comedy focused than the actual. And I felt like they did the same with Aquaman too. But yeah, Jason Momoa, like I say, the character Conan, it's every once in a while they'll be able to produce these kind of films because you need to really find an actor that not only embodies him physically but is able to portray the role. But let's progress and let's have a look at Conan the Barbarian. So Conan the Barbarian is a 1982 American epic sword and sorcery film directed by John Milius and written by Milius and Oliver Stone, based on Robert E. Howard's Conan. The film stars Arnold Schwarzenegger and James Earl Jones and tells the story of a barbarian warrior named Conan who seeks vengeance for the death of his parents at the hands of Thulsa Doom, the leader of a snake cult. So, where would you like to start? First of all, the opening monologue with the blacksmith at the beginning of this film, I thought really set the tone. And I've literally just finished watching this about half an hour prior to this, and it's now on Disney Plus, and they've moved it up to HD. And I don't know if I don't know if it's available in 4K, but literally,
Probably is by now, I think.
Probably will be, but I haven't seen this for a good couple of years, a good few years, and honestly, just watching that prologue in HD or 4K, whatever, on Disney Plus, it honestly felt new and fresh again.
Yeah, one thing that's great about this film is the cast. So you obviously have Schwarzenegger, James Earl Jones as Thulsa Doom, Max von Sydow. Even though his role is small, he's still big enough to make that's the poster still makes his name up there. Sandal Bergman, beautiful chick. Mako, he's always been in a lot of like films, especially in the 80s. He does like the narration throughout the film. Ben Davidson plays Rexor, and Sven Old Thorson plays Thorgrim, who has been in so much shit with Jean-Claude Van Damme, as well as Schwarzenegger over here, like Hard Target, Gladiator, 13th Warrior, Running Man, stuff like that. So the cast is already strong. Yeah.
Definitely. So these three, well, he has a photo of the three main heroes of the film. Obviously, you haven't mentioned the cast name, but the character names are Valeria, and I forgot the name of his character just off the top of my head.
Sadako, or something like that.
That's it, Sadako, yes.
Or Subotai, excuse me, Subotai.
Subotai, Sadako, and then obviously, as you mentioned, you had the fantastic Mako in this, who plays the good wizard type character. Who I really enjoyed. And then, of course, you've mentioned the other. This is the main villain.
Boy.
Yeah.
Tulsa.
Yeah, and I would honestly say when it comes to him, that is an actor, everyone will remember him as Darth Vader, the voice of Darth Vader, and because he's probably more prolific as a voice actor than an actor. But obviously we know him as the voice of Darth Vader and we know him as the voice of Mufasa. But honestly, I think this particular role is his third most iconic role, being the first, in the first Conan film.
Yeah, it's funny because I brought up last night, I said, because James has had like a few good films like Sandlot and Field of Dreams and stuff like that. But as far as villains, like I was like, this is probably his most villainous role. And she's like, what about Vader? I said, he's the voice, but the guy walking around is not him, but he's the voice. So yeah, it is iconic. But when you watch Conan, it's so interesting because I don't think James has ever done a role like this ever again. Like he's so haunting in this film. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
And but he has like a casual, he has like this casual calmness about it though. It's not like he's like a screaming, raging madman. He's like very collected. He knows what he's doing. He's methodical.
And it's nice to actually see him, isn't it? And like you said, voicing a villain is different to portraying a villain physically, and actually physically acting out there in a role. other than obviously I know voice acting is still acting. You still have to have a bit of talent behind it and be able to portray the emotions via your voice work. But obviously being able to physically play the villain is different. And like you've mentioned, I think for me this is outside the voice of Mufasa and the voice of obviously Vader, this is his most, for me, impactful physical, like, on-screen presence role.
What good is a sword compared to the hand that wields it?
I absolutely love that scene, especially when he just says, "Come to me, child," and the girl just drops.
Just picks one out of there.
Yeah.
That's power.
Yes, flesh is power. It's the hand that wields it.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. So the story starts with the sword that's forged by the blacksmith. And obviously the blacksmith is telling him about like a bit of the mythology and the history and all that. And then suddenly, his father's there and they're in their little village, and then obviously they get raided by James Earl Jones's character and his minions, who then obviously slaughter everybody. And one thing I always remember as the kid, because we had a dog and all I've ever known is a lovely little cuddly dog, is this scene where the father he's just been stabbed and he's got the sword stuck in him. And then, of course, the dogs are just to get launched on him, and he's savagely, ripped apart by these dogs. And that's something that always stood out for me as well in this film, because I wasn't used to seeing, like, dogs act of that nature, even though it was in this film.
Attention to detail, because, it starts, obviously at this point, Thulsa Doom they're searching around for steel. This is like what they're collecting swords and any kind of like weaponry because they're building their army. But the nice attention to detail, so you have like the scout that shows up first, and then all of a sudden, as you said, when the father's he's doing his best to hold off this attack, and of course Rockstar's like, kill him, get rid of that one because he's a problem. And all of a sudden the Rottweilers that have their body armor on with the dogs, that's so fucking cool. That's something that stands out immediately, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously the tribe the tribe he's from in the village, they're called the Sumerians. So the Sumerians are obviously slaughtered, and the next iconic scene is the scene which I think is similar to this one, where James Earl Jones is just staring, at the mother. And Conan is a child. He's a young child who's witnessed, his father being murdered, and the villain there is standing there while he's, his mother's got her arms around him, and you think that she's safe. You think he's going to let them go and give them mercy in some way, but then suddenly he just swings round. And it's that beautiful, captivating shot of the arm against Conan and the body slowly dropping. And you get that hint of what's happened. He's chopped her head off using this sword. And the next thing you just see Conan staring in complete awe that he's lost. He's not just one parent, he's now lost two parents.
Yeah, it's obviously, like I said, they were searching for steel. They knew that his dad was a blacksmith, so they had a sword. Thulsa Doom's looking at it. Of course, she has like the matching sword to her husband's, so she's like, ready to go battle with him. But this is where you kind of learn about Thulsa Doom's like hypnotic appeal to his like snake cult. So he has almost a hypnotizing way of looking at you. So he was able to kind of get her to drop her guard, and then that's when he swung around, took her head. You see the hair fall in front of you. You don't see the head itself, but just the hair, and then the body of the knife falls away. It's a powerful moment. Like, and I was like, you were younger than me, but I was like 14, so like this was like jarring. Like, I was actually, in some ways, this was almost like a horror film to me at the beginning, because I'm just like, holy shit, blood everywhere, dogs killing people, taking heads. Like, this is nuts.
Yeah. And it's like I say, I've seen a lot of films shouldn't have as a kid. I used to just sneak into my brother's room with his
Yeah.
mates, and I'm like, I want to watch. And I would pester him that much, he would just say, just get on the end of the fucking bed and don't say a thing.
The famous last words were, they always tell me, "Oh, but you're gonna have nightmares." No, I won't. Then I had nightmares, but it was okay because I wanted to see those films.
Yeah, there's one film that out of a lot of them childhood films, the only one I had, horrendous night terrors over was Hellraiser, which is the worst one I could have possibly stayed up for. But yeah, so after that scene where the mother is timely dead, they take all the steel. I think they must have literally killed all the adults within the village, because the next scene is them all of the children of that village are getting taken to like this mining area, and it's called the Wheel of Pain. It's this giant wheel, and they're like obviously harvesting stone or whatever it was. And as this is like just in the first few minutes of this movie throughout, you just see the young Conan circling the wheel, and then as it circles you get them amazing scenes where you see him different ages of him till he eventually gets to the age of Conan. But the most detailed thing about that scene, or that bit beginning, is as the wheel's turning, there's loads of children turning the wheel, and as you see the stages of them aging, the children get less and less till he's the final one. He's the only one who is actually in charge of turning that wheel. And I just thought, once again, that's another powerful moment and another powerful shot within the movie.
Yeah, it showed his determination. Like, they were basically child slaves just brought there to mine, and then if they died, they died. They didn't care. But he's like so determined. He just kept going and going and going.
Yeah, and then obviously once he's fully grown, he then gets placed within this gladiator kind of surround. It's like an underground gladiator tournament, and at first,
Mhm.
the first fight you see with that character who's got the helmet on, he's got like the sharp teeth and bites into them. He doesn't kind of fight back. It's like he holds back. It's like because he's still like, I guess, in that mentality of a child kind of
Mhm.
thing. And then all of a sudden he finally does fight back and beats the fuck out of the bloke, and he
Yeah, it's a
takes it.
matter of sheer power at that point because
Yeah,
we have to understand that he's been on that wheel since a kid, so he has no education. And he is very childlike, so he doesn't even know what's going on. He just sees people like screaming and yelling, and all of a sudden this guy's attacking him. But eventually, he just like fucks the dude up.
definitely. And as it progresses, he becomes like the number one gladiator within that camp, within the slave, I guess the slave traders. And then you've got the king trainer who kind of must have recognised him from a boy to a man, that he has deep sympathy for him, uh, and he decides to let him go. He breaks
Mhm.
him free, and he kind of wanders off. And there's that other iconic scene once again with the dogs that are hunting him down, which he escapes from, and then he ends up in this cave, this Atlantean cave, and that's when he finds his sword. Like the first sword he wields is Conan.
Yeah. So before he's let go, it should be noted that like during that time in the gladiators, he's given like an education. He's given swordsmanship, like trained by martial arts swordsmen. Uh, he's now learned how to be with women, whether they want to or not, but he's learned that. Uh, yeah, so,
Titties.
yeah. So he gets to the cave you're talking about to avoid the wolves or dogs or whatever, and he's looking around. It's like almost like the round table of these skeletons and stuff. So he sees like one of them that his father taught him. One thing you can trust is steel, but he's also telling him about this god Crom, which is
Yeah,
basically of the earth. So he's in this little like rock cavern. So he believes when he sees this like king that's passed away with this sword that he's Crom. He believes this is Crom that he's looking at. So
yeah.
he takes the sword, breaks off the rust and dust, sword is in nice shape. It's a pretty good sword.
Mm-hmm.
Decides he's gonna get out, cut the chains off, and then he doesn't have any like fur, so he sees the dogs, and we don't see what happens, but we know what happens. He
Yeah.
takes care of the dogs and has some new fur to handle the weather.
Yes, and like you said, it's the great transition from him being a child captured to being a gladiator that who then gets educated, who's very childlike, to now like learning parts of the world that he's living in. And like you say, when he breaks out, he goes to the cave. He survives whatever he's been through, and he's now more educated. He's still, I think, a bit wary and a bit like naive of certain things, because the next scene isn't very PG-13 at all.
Nope.
Because this next scene, I think I was more fucking terrified of this scene than when I first seen the werewolf.
This movie is like this. Like, really, there's a lot of horror elements in the film, like, and this is definitely one of them.
Yeah, and the one thing I will say I love about this particular film, now that I've seen it on Disney Plus as well, in 4K or HD, whatever it's in better detail, is the actual detail in the actual production of the movie, of how well it was made. Because obviously, like you see, when he's in that cave, the Atlantean cave, like just seeing like every detail of the armor, every little pattern on the clothing, and like even his armor, the armor around him, there is a lot of great production value in this film. And that's one thing I noticed, that obviously I'd seen it before, but I appreciated it more now that I've seen it as I've gotten older. Which I think a lot of these older films are getting a lot of more appreciation for what they are, compared to like today's cinema. But the next scene, like I say, this terrified me more than say seeing something like, when you first see the werewolf in American Werewolf in London. This next particular scene really did give us the heebie-jeebies, especially with what was happening 2 minutes prior to this happening.
Yeah, I didn't see that one coming.
No. So next, what happens is Conan, now that he's got his sword, and now that he's obviously he's been slightly educated in the way of the world, he comes across like this hut in the middle of the wilderness, and outside the hut stands this beautiful, gorgeous lady. Like, she's stunning. She's a beautiful lady, not much clothing on, showing the goodies off.
Do you want to warm by my fire? Sure,
Yeah.
baby. I'm coming right in.
So she seduces Conan, and him being the naive individual that he is, decides to go in and they begin, to get intimate and perform, the good old hoo-hoo.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing, because like at first, when I first watched this a couple times, I didn't really catch like the dialogue between her and him, and then I realized after later, like, okay, so obviously at this point Conan is searching for the snakes. He's searching for doom, but he doesn't really know what he's looking for. He just knows, he remembers the symbol of the two snakes facing each other. That's really all he knows. So the girl brings up snakes, and he's like interested. He's like, wait, yeah, I'm looking for snakes. And so she says, I can give you this information, but there's a cost. And so the kind of funny thing is, while they're banging, she gets like, because she's a witch, but she gets these like visions or some sort of like, somehow is drawn in like images of where he should be looking to go find Thulsa Doom. And of course, I'll let you go and finish what happens. Like there's a price that you have to pay. So it's basically like, I can give you this information, but you may not live to go use it.
Yes. So basically, like you say, the banging and making sweet music together next to this warm, fireplace. It's nice and cozy, like a hut on a winter's night. And then all of a sudden, as it's going on, obviously, you just see like her slow transformation, and how she begins to like howl, and you see her hands turn to claws, the eyes change to like like a demon like look, and he then ends up having to fight for his life to survive. And how does he survive? Because it's nice and cozy. He throws the fucker into an open fire.
Yeah.
And but she doesn't die. She get you see her like gazing behind the fire. Like, I guess she must be burnt and injured, but she kind of like teleports her way out of the hut and disappears into the night. And you just hear like this echoey scream as she ventures out. But
Yeah.
like you say, he survived again. He's learned his lesson, not to just bang any chick with a banging body. And
But you ever notice later on, like he's like, goddamn sluts. I'm like, how do you even know that word, buddy?
yeah. So obviously, like you say, as the film progresses, it's also him learning as he progresses through this world. And like you say, because he was set free, and you mentioned it, he's now trying to find the snake. He's trying to find, he wants vengeance on the death of his parents and the loss of his village. And so he's looking for Tulsa Doom. And this is when he next comes across, I think it's the cult.
Mm-hmm.
It's the cult. He follows, no, he goes to, you listen to the voice of the witch, sorry, that he does get to use because he hasn't been killed. And
Yeah, he
then,
meets Sabotage at this point too. So
yeah, so he then bumps into Subotai, who is heading to the city of Zamora to seek out the find Tulsa Doom. And along the way, they also meet Valeria. So Valeria, who is absolutely stunning, she is. I think, and one thing, it took me a while after, a few years later to actually realise that she was the same actress that played the villain in Red Sonja.
mm-hmm.
Which,
Yep.
because she obviously had a dark wig on, like a dark bobbed wig on, but being a lot younger then, I didn't actually take notice that that was the same
She was
actress.
also in Hell Comes a Frog Town with Roddy Piper, and she actually gets
Yeah,
topless in that one too.
yeah, sure. She's absolutely stunning. And he has a comparison of her, and that's the comic version of Valeria. And this is Valeria, but this is Valeria when she becomes a Valkyrie near the end of the film, which we'll get into. But
Mm-hmm.
obviously, she's absolutely stunning, and obviously, that's her with Arnold Schwarzenegger as
Yep.
well. But absolutely stunning. But he meets Valeria, and obviously she's like a lone like warrior type woman. And as the plot progresses, obviously she's never, I guess, trusted a man or lost a man. I kind of, and she's there to raid this town of the serpents. I believe it's called the town of the serpent. So she
Or
goes
a
looking.
tower, something like that.
It's
Yeah.
the Tower of Serpents, and she's there to steal jewels and other valuables from the shrine. And it's when they're there that the city guards actually capture them, I believe. And the city guards capture them, and they bring them to the King Osric, who beautifully played. Who it's only a small role, I believe, but it's still an amazing performance. Um,
Yeah.
by
The one thing about the tower is because people who may not have seen this at this point, years have passed, so Tulsa Doom's influence has really spread across the countryside and everything. So in this tower, even though Tulsa's not there, Rexar is one of his henchmen is there. He actually runs that. So uh, they have like their, I guess you would call them their followers that are there. They have sacrificial virgins that they feed to this gigantic snake that they end up doing battle with towards the end when they're trying to steal these jewels. Um, but yeah, eventually they get so drunk because they're too careless. They get all these jewels and stuff, and they flaunt their money. So the Max von Sundow's character, he is a king, and he comes and he gets them, and he's like, "Boy, you guys are really brazen to go and attack one of Thulsa Doom's towers and stuff and steal from him." He's like, "I commend you." So basically, he wants to hire the three of them to go get his daughter, who is the princess, who's been influenced by Thulsa Doom, and basically ran away and almost tried to kill the king himself, because that's what Thulsa Doom does. He basically hypnotizes you to the point that you do bad things. So their job now is to go and try to retrieve her, but and the king will give them any amount of jewels they want. He's like dumping all sorts of stuff on. He just wants them to go
Yeah,
get it. But
yeah. I love
Valerie is kind of like hesitant because she knows how powerful Doom is.
yeah, and obviously she and Conan end up having this romantic moment, and they end up getting together. And she basically, because she's fell for him and she likes him, but he's still like on this mission for revenge. She's hesitant to go, and obviously she like tells her kind of a backstory how she had lost belief in all this stuff, and now she believes in something again.
Hmm.
And another thing with the king, I love that dialogue with Conan when he says you can have as many jewels as you want. It doesn't matter, basically how rich you are, how powerful you are. All he wants is his daughter, because that all that matters in the end is the love that he has for his daughter. He would give it all up for the daughter, and he's willing to give them whatever they want to
I like the other
basically.
one too, where they're sitting there. First, it's just Valerie and Conan, and the king's like, "I thought there was three of you," and so they're like, Valerie is like, "Yeah, no, he got eaten by lions," and all of a sudden they bring him in. He's like drunk off his ass, so what's high is, and the king's like, "Oh, eaten by lions, huh?" So
But
that's
that,
funny.
yeah, and but the whole meet up scene with them, and when you see they kill that giant snake, and that it's amazing like introduction to the three of them, and it also shows you them for the first time like collaborating to go on like in a mission and all that stuff. So
Hmm.
like you say, they then basically now, they're now a trio, but obviously she's hesitant to go on this mission to rescue the daughter because she knows how dangerous it's probably going to be. But Conan just cannot, let it go what happened to him when he was a child. So he ends up, after they've, been passionate together, he kind of rides off into the sunset to basically become a one-man mission.
Hmm.
So, very, very, it's a real great plot, and real connecting, everything connects together. So he then obviously dashes off, and this is one of the more, I didn't realize this part till I got a bit older. But then obviously he meets that other kind of cult with all the priests, all in the get up. And there's one of them with the blonde hair, and he's like flirting with Conan. And this, and by the way, this is in the
He's
'80s,
like,
and it
"You're
wasn't.
so big and healthy.
Yeah,
You should be
yeah,
proud."
and you need to remember this was in the '80s,
Hmm.
and obviously back in the '80s, homosexuality wasn't really at the forefront of people's minds back then,
Yeah.
or it wasn't as, I guess, open as it is today. But we're talking back in the '80s, and obviously in the books, there's probably is like characters of that inkling, in the books. So I thought to have that in there, and I just realised it when I thought that was very brave for the time, and even Arnold Schwarzenegger's like flirting back with him. Is there somewhere we can go? Yeah,
Yeah. Can
and
we
then he's,
talk over there?
yeah, and the next thing you know, he knocks the fuck out of him and steals his
Takes his
outfit.
clothes, yeah, just robes.
Yeah, so he can like obviously disguise himself to go within this temple of the people who are worshipping Tulsa Doom. Do you,
Yeah, so when he fought the snake, he found like an emblem on the wall that was the two snakes coming together. So he took that and he's been carrying that around. So he gets stopped by like one of the guards trying to go up towards the temple, and he gives the guard the emblem, thinking he can get a pass, but the guard goes and hits up, I think, Thorgrim or Rexar, and they end up knocking his ass out, and they capture him. They figure this is somebody that stole from the temple. So uh, this is where we come to the point where Thulsa Doom is basically interrogating Conan, and he's been kind of roughed up by the other guys. And he's like, you stole from my temple, you killed my snake, and that's what grieves me the most. Thorgrim raised that snake as a kid. And so it's like going through this whole spiel, but it's one of where Thulsa Doom's best like monologues happens is when we talk about the flesh, the power of flesh, and compared to steel. But it's also where Conan says, you killed my family, you murdered them. And he's like, oh, it must have been when I was younger, driven by some other things or whatever it was he said.
And
But
it's the calmness of how he says it. Like it's like an afterthought. It's like, oh,
yeah,
did I? Did I?
yeah.
Oh, did I do that? Oh well, okay. It's like he's
And,
not
and it's
off.
funny because it all plays into when he's like explaining everything and has the girl jump down to her death to show her allegiance to him. He's like, oh well, contemplate this on the tree of woe, and they go, of course, crucify him on the tree, hoping that he'll die out there. But that's when, of course, Subutai comes to his rescue.
Yes, Subutai comes to his rescue, but then he's near death, isn't he? He's
Yeah.
virtually near death because he's literally been crucified. He's been hung up. He's been
Sun, all
left
that
out to
shit.
starve to die, and then obviously he gets rescued. It's called the Tree of Woe, and he's on the verge of death when he's brought to Akiro. Akiro is the name of the wizard. And obviously Akiro the wizard, it's called the Mound. They take him to the place called the Mound, and Akiro the wizard, who lives on, it's like a warrior burial site. So it's a warrior burial site which is full of respected warriors that's now been killed in battle or have died, and he goes there, and they want to try and save him, and there's a spell that can be cast. There's a spell that can be cast that can bring him back to full health, but there's a price to pay. And Valeria is willing to pay the price and to pay the toll for bringing Conan back to life or save him from death. And there's that amazing scene when the spell, or it's being put upon, and you're hearing the noises outside, and it's the colorations of reds and blacks, and there's Valeria, and obviously you've also got they've basically fending off the vengeful spirits, I'm assuming, or the demons that are trying
Yeah,
to
because
either.
the funny thing about that is back in the day, my TVs were so small you could never tell what that was. It looked like just swirls. But as your TVs and the clearer picture gets better, like, because I never saw it in the theater, so in the theater you'd probably notice what it was, but I didn't notice till much later that these were like demons in the shape of like
Yeah.
spirit forms.
Yeah. So Subutai and Valeria are fending off these demons that are either trying to kill Conan or potentially possess his body, I'm assuming.
I think they were going to take them to hell or something. It was something like
Yeah, they were gonna take him, but obviously Subutai and Valeria agree to help Conan to complete the mission that he decided to go on once they'd fend off the demons, and Conan survives. He's back to full health, and they agree to then go ahead and complete this mission, which is to rescue the princess. But at the same time, at the back of it, I would say Valeria's mind, she knows she's still got to pay the price for bringing Conan back to life. So this is when they end up going to the temple, I believe.
through the cave, yeah.
Through the cave. In this is my favourite look in the whole film. And I couldn't find an image of it, but I absolutely loved the get-up.
The war paint.
The war paint. It was like barbarian slash retro camouflage. You know, you see
Hmm.
soldiers the day that go to war, they've got the camouflage paint on. This was barbarian fucking war paint, and
Yeah.
even Conan's hair looked blacker than it did previously, and even Valeria, she looked freaking phenomenal, gorgeous, phenomenal. And the break in and Subatizer, he's all up in the get up, and they put a plan together, and that's when they come across this giant, I guess, worship room or chamber room, where all of the worshippers are basically, you think they're having what looks like a giant orgy,
That's what it is.
but a giant orgy, which I was never invited, so I'm not happy. But
And the
there's
crazy
this,
thing is that shit they had in the big old food pot, man, was like supposed to be like an aphrodisiac, but like it was like mixed
it,
with body parts and
yeah,
shit.
it's like cannibalism. It's like a mix. It's like a magical, like it's like a soup. It looks like a cannibalized soup that's been put together. That obviously they are feeding upon, but they'll probably end up in the soup themselves later on, and they don't
Maybe,
realize
yeah.
it. And obviously
But
all
hey,
that's go.
we got to give a shout out though. So the guys with like the weird fucking masks and the fucked up faces, they were still getting laid. I saw some of those guys in there mixing it up with some of those gorgeous gals. They were getting some. You got to hand it off
Yeah,
to them, man. They got some pull.
yeah. Well, they've got, when you're working for the man, when you're working for Doom,
Right?
it gives you some credit with the ladies.
It's like Xerxes with the humpback. You want women? I got women for you. They don't care what you look like. They'll just give it to you. I just
Yeah.
say so. Do it.
Yeah, so even they are getting laid. I think I'm the only one that's not getting laid. But so anyway, they joining in. They're getting everything set up, and then you do see Tulsa Doom, and you see him like suddenly manifest or transform into this snake form. It's slowly, and the effects that they used at the time, I thought were really well crafted. How they were able to like especially when you see Earl Jones' face, and it suddenly starts to like maneuver forward, and he starts to like slowly transform into this giant serpent like creature, or well, it's a giant snake. And then obviously they're busy planning on assassinating him and breaking in, and then this is when there's a lot of action takes place within this part of the movie, where they start fighting off and destroying everything around them, tipping up the giant soup bowl with all the cannibalized bodies and mixed portions. And
Lighting shit on fire.
yeah, and that's when Conan goes against the two main henchmen, which you remember the names for them? I forgot the names.
Rexar and Thorgrim, yeah.
Yeah,
And that's like one of my favorite moments because Rexar looks at him and says, "You," and he's like,
yeah,
got his
yeah.
sword back.
The thing with their Rexall, the one with the mustache, this guy here, he's actually, he comes across very like obviously he's the leader, Thulsa Doom, but Rexall, he's like the second, I guess the second boss. He's like the second in command, and you can tell where this one here, he's very much. He didn't seem that intelligent compared to the other.
No,
one.
and here's the funny thing, if I recall,
because he literally knocks with the giant hammer.
he has the warhammer, but I think at this point in time, because see, here's the thing, at the time, Schwarzenegger still hadn't mastered the English language, so his lines were not that many. But for Sven, I don't think he spoke much English at all, so I think that's why he really had no words at all in this film.
Yeah.
Now later on, he started to get it, but I think at this point he hadn't really learned the language that much, so they really didn't give him anything to say. But he did come off as more of a simple-minded kind of guy, but he was a badass on his own right.
Yeah, and
his death scene was amazing, by the way.
His death scene's outstanding. But the thing is with him as well, obviously when you first see him, like I say, I'll just put that image back up. When you see him there in the background behind James Earl Jones' character. You don't really see how built he is, like how
Mhm.
muscular he is on there. And obviously that might have been another reason he was hired. One, he could have been good friends with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and two,
Yeah, he
because of
was. Yep.
his physical physique. But
Hmm.
when I looked at him, obviously I know Arnold Schwarzenegger will always be looked at as the definitive Conan, but when I look at this image, he looks like the other one that the side
Yeah.
this the third the actually he looks more like him from the comic.
Right.
So maybe that was another kind of nod to the creators to like have a person who looked like the comic book version of Conan actually in the film.
Yeah.
But obviously, why I thought, well, he's not the smartest for, because throughout the battle that takes place, he has the giant warhammer and he smashes into the middle pillar, and it
Yep.
all comes crashing down, and he
Knocks
knocks
Rexor out.
he knocks Rexo out. So it's like, well, that wasn't really the smartest of ideas, and obviously during this time, Conan and that managed to escape. I think they realised the potential could be outnumbered, so they decided to venture out and escape.
Yeah, they got the
Uh,
princess and they've jumped on their horses and it's getting to be like dusk, and so they're like kind of bolting away from the caves now.
yeah, so they've managed to rescue the princess, who, by the way, doesn't want to be rescued. She's now fully under the spell of Tulsa
Yeah, she's
Doom.
like hissing, all this shit too.
Yeah, so it's like she's got like the mannerisms of a snake, because obviously it
Yep.
is the snake cult.
Yep.
And by this point, what happens is they escape. They manage to rescue, but Valkyrie, she's on the back of the horse. They're bombing away in the middle of the night, escaping the area. When all of a sudden, Tulsa Doom, he sees them and he has a serpent snake in his hand, and he hypnotizes it, and it then becomes like a weapon, and he then turns it into a bow and he fires it directly at Valkyrie, who is hit and obviously is poisoned instantly. And this is the next part of the movie where Valeria is suddenly, she's basically dying, and she dies in Conan's arm, but she says she kind of realizes this is probably her way of paying back the debt that she
Hmm.
had to pay back for bringing Conan back to health. And obviously, by this part, she goes, I want you to kiss us and hold us. And as she's, fading away, she's saying it, keep us warm, and then she eventually passes. So I found that quite a moving scene, because when you first meet Valeria and Conan together, you do that are quite a powerful duo together. And to lose one of the stars, which in this you always have to lose one of the stars in these kind of movies. But I was ashamed to see her be the one that goes. But it also is probably the motivation to keep
Hmm.
Conan to continue his vengeance.
And if you're someone who saw Destroyer, the next film, you would know why. Like that plays a part in that particular film as well.
Yes, definitely. Um, so he's lost Valeria. This is when things. This is probably my favourite sequence in the film. Dawn's arrived. They're now hiding out at the back at the mound, and this is when Tulsa Doom and Rexall and a few of the minions decide to go into pursuit
Hmm.
and rescue the princess.
Yep.
Uh,
And interesting enough, just a side note, I can't pronounce her name, but the girl that played the princess was also in Summer Lovers with Daryl Hannah, which is another film I saw back then. But that's neither here nor there. But the girl, apparently the actress, she passed away at 31 in a car accident, so that was kind of unfortunate. But I thought she did a really good job with the role of the princess. Like apparently she was a big fairy tale kind of person, so like that's why she wanted to do the role. So it was kind
oh,
of
she was
cool.
into fantasy and fairy tales and like that kind of genre.
Yeah. But she was
Yeah,
only like 31, so that's unfortunate.
It's unfortunate, yes, may I rest in peace. But at least she got, before she passed, she got to live out, I guess, her dream to be a part of of a fantasy film, and especially a one that's gonna last the end of time.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
this
This
is
has
this
not
is
lost any luster at all.
yeah, this will be a film even long after even Arnold Schwarzenegger passed. People will keep going back to, because there's just something about it that stands out. But do you want to take away and finish the last part of this film for us?
Sure. So yeah, Thulsa Doom and the company are they're riding out to the mound to try to get the princess back. It's sort of like their bargaining chip, I guess, with the king or whatever. But at this point, Conan, Subotai, and Akiro, they're all gonna set up like a war station. So they've got the pieces of wood, spikes for the horses that come by, and old armor that Kiro's found, big axes, and of course we see a moment where Conan's waiting. He's like starting to pray to Kron. He's like, I've never prayed to you before, never had the tongue for it, but help us. It's like three against many, and if you don't, to hell with you. Yeah, as he would put it. Do it myself, basically. And they start coming. Of course, the main three hang back while the drones go in there trying to get them. But Subotai and Conan lay them to waste pretty easily. A lot of good trickery. Subotai is a great archer. That should have been something we mentioned. So he's pretty good with the archer and the bow and arrow. Eventually, Thorngrim and Rexar start their attack, and this gets pretty fucking brutal. At first, it's kind of funny because
Blood. It's nothing but blood.
Rexar is running with his horse at Conan. Conan's running, but he cuts the horse's legs off from under him. Doesn't kill it, just to be note there. But Rexar is down. He's kind of shaken up, but then Thorgrim comes by and whaps, Conan with his hammer. And they have this moment where they're kind of hunting each other. And Conan has set this trap that's much like the Vietnamese with the tree, like Rambo. If you remember the swinging branch that came around with the thorn in it. This has a big ass wood spike, and so
and that could have been actually also a tribute to at the beginning of the film when you see him when he's in the camp and when he was captured and he's a gladiator. Obviously, there's different types of warriors talking, and some of them are like samurai type warriors. With all you see, all the get up, and it's all traditional, like samurai, like gear, similar to them, or like Genghis Khan kind of get up, all that. So what he used at the end of the film could have been something that he was trained by them to do.
If you look at that round table at that time when you with the gladiators, like there's a lot of different influences.
Cultures, and like the Shogun era, and the like I say, like the Genghis, you look like Genghis Khan, the people that were around, and obviously you've got different cultures who had different methods of like capturing people or killing people or all that. So that could have been something like you see at the round table if he ever went on a hunt with them, like the hunt, say, I don't know, wild boars or deers. He could have learned these kind of methods with them to capture animals, and he's using them against the people.
Yeah, I didn't really think about that, but that's very possible because he was very culturally influenced by other types of war. So, but yeah, so Thorgrim, the way they set it up, they had two big ass rocks. Conan took his helmet and put it down by on top where basically the button is that would swing it around. Thorgrim sneaking around, he thinks it's him, smiles, and then slams his hammer on it. Then the shit comes swinging around and gets him right in the fucking chest. And he doesn't die right away, so he's sitting there. Conan's kind of like checking him out. It's like one of those things, like, I'm just going to mock you while you die slowly type things.
One of the best kills, probably the best kill in the film.
Yep.
100%. Loved it. And then obviously the next time, I think it's him and Rexar, he goes hunting after him and they get into a bit of a sword battle. And I think at the time, he is kind of losing the battle to Rexar when all of a sudden the spirit of Valeria appears, but now she looks like she did in this picture,
Yeah,
which
Valkyrie type thing. Yep.
she's now become a Valkyrie, which obviously must be like the highest honor that you can go to, and it obviously because she give herself up, freely to the spirits, and she'd like prove that she was worthy enough to become a Valkyrie. And because of that distraction, Conan's able to fight and kill Rexor. And even then, he's like slashing him with the sword, and there's fucking blood flying everywhere, and there's, blood popping out everywhere. It's a really fantastic scene. But it was also like, it made Valeria's kind of story come full circle. How she's now, like, you see what's become of her. She's now like a worthy, like, high Valkyrie spirit.
Yeah, because Conan believes in Valhalla and stuff, so that gives him confirmation that she's okay and that she's looking over him and all that stuff. The other cool thing was, you talk about full circle, is Rexar is actually fighting with his dad's sword still. He still has his dad's sword. So as he's fighting, he breaks it, basically breaking that connection and then taking it back. And that's a cool moment when he kills Rexar, and takes his dad's sword back, even though it's broken in half.
Definitely. Yeah, so he has his, because like you say, it's the sword that at the beginning, during the first monologue of the movie, that Conan's actually watching his father, who's talking about gods and the way of the world. It's like the sword that was wielded on the day that his dad was basically murdered in front of him. So yeah, you see another fantastic full circle moment. Obviously, Tulsa Doom's best men have now been killed. He goes, fuck it. You can have the princess, but you can't have her alive. So once again, like he did with Valeria, he then takes a serpent that he transforms into an arrow. And she's standing like at the rock, and she's like, don't kill me, take me with you. I want to be with you. Father, yeah, because it's like this, that's the second time he's had this father figure role. 3 times, James Earl Jones is known as a father figure.
Right.
2 of them he was an absent father, but and this is one of them. So actually 4 father figures roles, because he was the father in Coming to America.
Yeah.
Talk about kite typecast.
Right.
So this is the 4th film he's played a father role, but like, so ends up he goes to kill her with the serpent arrow, and obviously she gets saved, she gets protected, and he rides off back to the temple. And I think this is when, I don't know if it's naturally happens or if the spell is broken for the princess, and she kind of sees,
Yeah, because Subotai does stop the arrow, and I think at that point she kind of realizes that, it's been a lie. He's willing to kill her even though she was so loyal, which is interesting because I watched it, like I have this on DVD, but I watched it on Prime last night, and I think the version I saw has been edited a little bit, which I do think, because there is a version where she's helping Conan get into the last temple at the end. Because she still has, like, everyone might think that she's still part of the cult, so she's kind of guiding him in while he kills the guys, the guards and stuff, while he makes his way to Thulsa Doom. But last night, it didn't show that. It just showed Conan killing one guard and then getting to Thulsa Doom. But I think there's another version that has her kind of sneaking around with him.
Well, I watched this, like I say, probably half an hour before doing this on it's currently on Disney Plus here in the UK. So if anyone watches this in from UK and you've got Disney Plus, it's on there. It's available to watch if you subscribe to Disney Plus. But when I watched this, and I cannot remember that scene either. I do remember what the scene you're talking about, but like I said, I've watched this film about 4 or 5 times so as I've gotten older. And you always discover something new or something you miss. But that's...
Well, I think in some ways they thought, because initially when it was released, I don't think they had that scene in there. So I think people were kind of wondering, like, because
How did he get
her,
into the
her role
temple?
her role after that was really kind of irrelevant. Like they didn't have to have her showing Conan in there, but I think they wanted to also show when they added in that she had changed her heart, like she was changing her
Yeah.
mind. So
Yeah, like I kind of maybe that's why they never showed it, because like you see the version that doesn't have that scene where she helps him into the temple, because that's one, it's for two reasons. One, um, probably for just for time that they didn't
yeah,
add it
yeah,
in, and obviously because obviously they just wanted to get to the final confrontation. But also I think as well you could look at it either way. That moment when Tulsa Doom's riding off away from her, you just see the sheer look on her face, and the look
hmm,
is like she like knows, oh, he's left his, he's deserted his, he clearly doesn't want his, and he's just fucking trying to kill his.
yeah,
So basically that would do it. But
yeah.
then maybe they thought, right, we don't need to show that. But you've made an excellent point that if they had showed that she also was the one that helped him into the temple from the start, it might have give a more like a change of heart look, and a more like emphasis on her character.
Yeah, yeah,
So this bit where there's just thousands of worshippers, it's now night time, there's torchlight everywhere, they're standing worshipping him. And he in Tulsa Doom basically talking to his people down below, and Conan suddenly appears, I believe. And Tulsa, it's like this is the only thing about the film that I found like the final confrontation a bit lackluster. Into in,
I thought it was okay. I mean, it plays into his ability to, like I said, he kind of has this mesmerizing, hypnotic a trait about him. So it was kind of a neat angle to, rather than have them do combat, like it was like, okay, because like this point, Thulsa knows that he's lost. Like, so he sees Conan, and he's like, what are my options here? Am I gonna look like a coward to my followers, or am I going to try to recruit this guy to be the new Rexor? Like, what do I do here? So he starts playing the mind tricks. He's like, I helped you become what you are. I am in turn your father now. And so he keeps trying to play into that fact that, like, I've created you. You're this great warrior because of me, because of everything that happened. So Thulsa was always very good at mind fucks. And so you see for a moment Conan's kind of like, he's like, I never thought about that. And then he snaps out of it, and he's like, hits him on the neck with the fucking sword. And yeah, you can finish it up from there. But
yeah, well, when he finishes it, well, basically he's like you see, he's trying to recruit him, and he's telling him and giving them all this dialogue of how I kind of, you know, created you, and then he hits him with the sword. And the great thing I loved about this was the blood splatter.
yeah,
You like he swipes, and you just see the blood actually lift up in the air, which give it just that extra specialness to the moment. And basically, Conan obviously he hasn't fell for his manipulation tactics. He's has one goal in mind, and that is to revenge his father and his mother, the villagers, Valeria, and anybody else that suffered at the hands of Tulsa Doom. So he takes one big swing, swings that big sword, and off it comes. He slices his head clean off, and there's just this scene of the body drop in the splatter of the blood, and then there's kind of a gasp from the thousands of followers down below who have just witnessed this person who they believe's like a deity or a god, or some sort of preacher is
yeah.
now
There was like
just.
this pause, as if they thought that Thulsa would come back and not be
Hmm.
dead. Like they really
Yeah.
thought that he was this invincible god.
And next thing you know, as they're standing there, and there's this like gasp of silence, that you suddenly just see this torch like flickering away as the followers are leaving one by one and deserting the temple. And this scene I really quite liked as well, where it's just Conan alone a little bit in the temple, and he's basically contemplating on everything that's went down. Like, he's completed the mission, he's completed his vengeance, he's revenged all those that have been, taken from him. But then he's probably also looking at his life and thinking, oh, what's next? Where do I go from here now? And, once you have that scene of him sitting around for a bit, he then obviously sets light to the temple, and you then see it just, it's completely lit up. It's completely burning, destroyed. And you just see that scene with the princess, who you now know is on his side. He takes her by the hand, and the next thing you know, he's taking her back to her father. And this is where it leads. It's basically a prologue for the second movie after this, which I absolutely loved. I loved the prologue. I loved how it talked about how he was going to go venture and go into war and conquer, hence Conan the Conqueror. And we have this beautiful scene after the dialogue and, the voiceover explaining the next chapter that either could have happened or didn't happen, but luckily this film was successful and we did get the sequel, Conan the Conqueror. But the last shot of Conan is this. What an amazing shot, and the detail of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, he looks just like he does on the throne. Except he's got two big ass fucking wolves there next to him.
They should have kept the wolves. Should have got wolves.
Well,
that would have been sweet if he had two wolves on his side.
Well, he's got two. He's got two on the end of the throne. He's got two cats
Lions.
there, lions. So that was the last shot of the movie, and what an iconic shot! And it led into the next film, which is Conan the Conqueror. But in all. Or Conan the Destroyer, sorry. Well, I keep saying the Conqueror because
I think there is a Conan the Conqueror. But it's probably in the comics. I don't know if they ever made a film of that one. But
I have read. I've read several of the comic books. I've read King Conan, which is the elder years of Conan. I've read a little bits of pieces of the original Conan comic, and obviously, and I'm sure there is a Conan the Conqueror comic book in that, but. Overall, an 80s classic, an amazing movie, an amazing underrated fantasy film. It's got swords, it's got muscles, it's got tits, and it's got death and blood. What more do you want? Yep. So, your overall thoughts of Conan the Barbarian?
Still 10 out of 10. Movie holds up well, especially in this day and age when, a lot of more mainstream stuff tries to cut back on the shock value of stuff. I think it still has a place in our hearts as movie fans. Practical effects, the snake, stuff like that is very cool. I still enjoy that a lot more than CGI.
The cinematography, the lighting played a big part in the success of this film. Especially like I said earlier on, the horror elements in the witch's hut. Where she's in that demon state, the color effects with the different shades of color really brought on the scares with her. For me, my personal opinion, like you, it holds up. It still gets 10 out of 10 for me. I loved everything about it. I loved the cinematography. I loved how it basically is a true representation, in my opinion, of the comic book in terms of the dark fantasy elements. Arnold Schwarzenegger, it's like he's been taken off the fucking page and put on the screen. All of the other cast members are fantastically cast and all do a brilliant job, especially, James Earl Jones, he's fantastic in this. Like I say, the special effects, and just I like fantasy. I'm a big fantasy buff. I love me Lord of the Rings. I love Legend. I love Dragon Slayer. I love all of that stuff. I even like the Beast. Is it Beastmaster? I love Beastmaster as well. I love those as well. So, yes, overall, 10 out of 10. Another fantastic film and another amazing choice by DJ Anubis. So, what's coming up on your channel next, my friend?
So probably about 45 minutes from now, or at least close to that, I have an interview with Mugen Lord. He's like a gamer creator. Just gonna be talking a little bit about how he got his start and some of this stuff with the gaming Gamergate 2 crap, just more drama stuff. But still plan on doing a new Lone Wolf dub. I'll probably do that Friday maybe. Tomorrow, Neko and I are going to go see Godzilla X Kong. We will either do a review tomorrow night or maybe Friday night. I'm not sure which yet, because depending on what time we get out of the theater, she may not be up to doing a review right away. So, and then we'll be with you whenever you get around to it, to be on your channel with some others to discuss the movie as well.
Yeah. Well, I plan on doing. I don't get to see this film till the 31st, which is Sunday, because I'm working the next 3 days. So I'm planning on the Monday to probably do a review, and I'll probably do that. I might just do that by myself, if I'm honest. But
Right.
I do in May. I want to do something big to celebrate kind of the success of, hopefully the success of Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire, and the entire MonsterVerse. I'm planning on doing at some time in May, when I schedule it, what I'm calling the MonsterVerse like stream. It's going to be a live stream. It's going to be like a retrospective, the MonsterVerse retrospective, where we will discuss, the beginning, the continuation, in the future, hopefully, of the MonsterVerse. Also coming to my channel sometime either later today or tomorrow, look out for my next My Top 10 segment, which is my top 10 disaster films. As for the next retro classic movie show, I may decide to do another film that you like, which is a film which was the film that basically was the original to the one that was your favourite pick in the best sci-fi features, which is Blade Runner. So that might be our next My Top 10. But
Nice.
as always, it's been fantastic having you on, my partner in crime, my co-host of the Retro Classic Movie Show. It's always a blast to have you on. But this has been the Retro Classic Movie Show. This is the entertainment headquarters. Please like, share and subscribe to the Metal Tavern Radio, because he has some amazing heavy metal music content, as well as movie reviews and a lot more creative and really good stuff on there. Please check him out. He deserves all the likes, the shares and subscribes. As for me, please like, share and subscribe to the entertainment headquarters if you like what you've seen. If you've enjoyed the Retro Classic Movie Show and a lot more, please like, share and subscribe. Until then,
And
from
hey,
me,
just in case, tell your audience if they want to give some or you want to give some options for us to review for them, maybe do that, because they might choose stuff that we like. So maybe they'll choose something they want.
that's a very good idea.
Recommendations. We always love recommendations.
Yeah, so in the comment section below, if you've enjoyed this review, the Retro Classic Movie Show review, please write what you thought of, what's your thoughts of Conan. Do you like Conan? Is it your favourite film? Don't you like it? Just let us know. And also, put in the bottom some recommendations between the 80s to the early 2000s of films that you would like us to review on the Retro Classic Movie Show. Or if you want, I'm quite happy, I will put a poll up in the community page of the entertainment headquarters of upcoming potential episodes for the Retro Classic Movie Show. But thanks, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. See, he's not just good looking, he's very smart. Look
I
at,
try to be. Try to be.
he's very smart man, this man. But anyway, from him, from me, please like share, and subscribe to both the channels. And this has been the Retro Classic Movie Show, and we'll catch you at the next one.